While I'm working 10-hour days to keep our lives afloat, my wife has perfected the art of doing absolutely nothing. And I mean nothing. The woman treats responsibility like it's some kind of contagious disease she might catch if she gets too close. Every morning, I wake up at 6, make my own coffee, and head out to work. When I come home, she's exactly where I left her, sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone like it's her full-time job. The dishes from breakfast? Still in the sink. The laundry I started before leaving? Still wet in the machine, probably growing mold by now. But here's the kicker. She doesn't just avoid responsibility. She acts like she's doing me a favor by existing. Last Tuesday, I walked through the door after a brutal day, and the first thing out of her mouth wasn't, "How was your day?" or even a simple hello. It was, "We need to talk about getting new furniture for the living room. I saw this amazing set online, only $3,000. $3,000. While I'm calculating whether we can afford groceries next week, she's shopping for furniture like money grows on trees in our backyard. I looked around at the mess she'd left, dirty plates on the coffee table, her clothes thrown everywhere, and I asked her a simple question. Who's paying for this furniture? Her response? A look of pure confusion, like I'd asked her to solve quantum physics. Well, you are, obviously. It's for our house. Our house. As if she contributed a single penny to the mortgage, utilities, or anything else that keeps this place running. I've been carrying the financial weight of our entire life for 3 years now. 3 years of her promising she'll find work soon. 3 years of her finding creative excuses why every job isn't good enough for her. Too far from home, not enough pay, doesn't match her skill set. Meanwhile, her skill set seems to consist of online shopping and complaining about how hard her life is. The worst part isn't even the money. It's the complete lack of acknowledgement. She treats our home like a hotel where she's the permanent guest and I'm the staff. She'll walk past a full trash can 20 times before mentioning, casually, that someone should probably take that out. Someone. Never her, always someone. Last month, I tried having a conversation about contribution. I sat her down, calmly explained that partnerships require effort from both people, suggested maybe she could handle some household tasks while job hunting. You know what she said? I didn't realize you were keeping score. Keeping score, like wanting basic adult responsibility from your spouse, is somehow petty. But the breaking point came last week. I was exhausted, dealing with a major project at work, pulling 12-hour days to meet a deadline that could make or break my position. I came home to find her on the phone with her sister, laughing about some celebrity drama, while the house looked like a tornado had hit it. Empty food containers everywhere, wet towels on the furniture, dishes stacked so high I couldn't see the counter. When she finally got off the phone, I asked if maybe she could help maintain the space we both live in. Her response? I'm dealing with a lot of stress right now too. You don't understand how hard it is being home all day with nothing to do. Nothing to do. In a house that desperately needed attention, with bills that needed organizing, with a dozen tasks that would make both our lives easier, she had nothing to do. That's when something clicked in my head. This wasn't about laziness anymore. This was about a complete disconnection from reality. She's been living in a bubble where consequences don't exist, where someone else always handles the hard stuff, where responsibility is optional. Well, I decided it was time to pop that bubble. Time to show her what responsibility actually looks like when it's required, not requested. The next morning, while she was still asleep, I made some calls. By the time she woke up, her comfortable little world was about to change dramatically. Because if she wanted to live like responsibility was optional, she was about to learn what life looks like when that luxury gets taken away. Sometimes you have to create consequences when someone refuses to face them naturally. And trust me, the consequences I had planned were going to be very educational. The very next day, she decided to throw a dinner party. Not discuss it, not ask if we could afford it, just announced it like she was reading the weather forecast. I invited the girls over for dinner Friday night. Nothing fancy, just a little get-together. Nothing fancy, right? Because when she says nothing fancy, what she really means is spare no expense, but pretend it's casual. I knew this game. I'd seen it before. The last time she threw a casual dinner, we ended up with a grocery bill that looked like we were feeding a small army, complete with expensive wine she insisted was necessary for the ambience. But here's where it gets interesting. She didn't just expect me to pay for everything. She expected me to be the help. Friday afternoon, while I'm trying to wrap up work early to prepare for this surprise party I never agreed to host, she calls me with a list. Not suggestions, not requests, a list of demands. Pick up the wine on your way home, the good stuff from that place downtown. And we need fresh flowers for the table, something that matches the tablecloth I bought yesterday. Oh, and stop by the bakery for dessert. I already called ahead and told them you'd be by to pick up the order. I sat there holding the phone, listening to her rattle off instructions like I was her personal assistant. What exactly are you doing while I'm running around town gathering supplies for your party? I'm getting ready, obviously, and cleaning the house. This place needs to look perfect. Cleaning the house. The same house she'd been ignoring for weeks while I worked and handled everything else. But now, suddenly, because her friends were coming over, it needed to be perfect. And naturally, her version of cleaning meant pointing out everything that needed to be done while I actually did it. I got home that evening with bags of groceries, expensive wine, flowers that cost more than some people spend on food for a week. The house looked exactly the same as when I left, except now she was in full panic mode, running around in a robe, complaining that there wasn't enough time to get everything done. "Thank God you're here," she said, grabbing the bags from my hands. "I need you to start cooking while I finish getting ready. The chicken needs to marinate for at least an hour, and don't forget to set the table with the good china." The good china? We had good china? Apparently, we did, hidden somewhere in the house I'd been living in for years. While she disappeared upstairs to spend 2 hours on her hair and makeup, I found myself cooking dinner for 6 people, setting a table with dishes I'd never seen before, and trying to make our living room look like something out of a magazine. Her friends arrived at 7, and that's when the real show began. She emerged from upstairs looking like she'd spent the day at a spa, playing the perfect hostess who'd somehow managed to throw together this little get-together with ease. The way she presented everything, you'd think she'd been slaving over a hot stove all day instead of me. "I just love having people over," she told her friends, gesturing around the room like she'd personally arranged every detail. "It's so important to create a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Warm and welcoming. Created by my wallet, my time, and my effort while she took credit for the whole production." But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was how she treated me once her audience arrived. "Honey, could you open another bottle of wine?" Not a request, a command issued while she continued her conversation without missing a beat. "And maybe bring out those appetizers I mentioned?" Appetizers she mentioned. The ones I prepared while she was upstairs getting ready. I was being treated like hired help in my own home, and her friends were watching it all unfold. Every time they needed something, she'd send me to get it. More wine, fresh ice, extra napkins, coffee for dessert. One of her friends even commented, "Wow, you're so lucky to have such a helpful husband." Lucky, like I was performing some kind of extraordinary service instead of being ordered around like a servant. The evening dragged on, and I found myself washing dishes, clearing plates, and cleaning up while she entertained her guests. At one point, I heard her say, "He's always been so good at taking care of things. I don't know what I'd do without him. What she'd do without me." Finally, some honesty. She'd collapse without someone to handle every aspect of adult life for her. But listening to her talk, you'd think she was describing a partnership instead of a one-sided arrangement where I did everything and she took credit. After her friends left, she was practically glowing. "That went perfectly. Everyone had such a great time. We should do this more often." More often. She wanted to repeat this performance, where I funded, planned, cooked, served, and cleaned up while she played hostess and took all the praise. That's when I realized this wasn't just about avoiding responsibility anymore. This was about her genuinely believing that my role in life was to make her look good while she contributed nothing. I spent the rest of the evening cleaning up the aftermath of her perfect dinner party, loading the dishwasher, putting away the good china, and calculating how much this little get-together had cost us. The number was staggering, especially considering we hadn't discussed the budget or whether we could afford it. But as I turned off the lights and headed upstairs, I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused, because watching her performance that night had shown me exactly what I was dealing with. She didn't just expect me to handle responsibility, she expected me to be invisible while doing it. Well, invisibility works both ways. And starting tomorrow, she was going to learn what it felt like when the person handling everything simply stopped being available. Monday morning came, and I executed my plan with surgical precision. While she slept in until noon like always, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. First call, the bank. Removed her access to our joint checking account and credit cards. Second call, our credit card company. Canceled the supplementary card she'd been using like it was connected to an endless money fountain. Third call, our cellular provider. Switched her phone plan to basic service. No more unlimited data for her social media marathons. By the time she woke up, her financial safety net had disappeared completely. But here's the beautiful part. She had no idea yet. She went through her usual routine, scrolling through her phone, probably planning her next shopping adventure or dinner party. I went to work as normal, didn't say a word about the changes. I wanted her to discover the new reality naturally. The first sign of trouble came around 2 in the afternoon. My phone buzzed with a text. Card got declined at lunch with the girls. Must be some mistake. Can you call the bank? Some mistake. I almost laughed. There was no mistake, just consequences finally catching up with choices. I didn't respond immediately. Let her figure it out. An hour later, another text. Seriously, what's going on with the cards? This is embarrassing. Embarrassing. Now she cared about embarrassment, but only when it affected her directly. When I was embarrassed by her treating me like a servant in front of her friends, that didn't matter. But her card getting declined in front of the same friends? Crisis mode. I finally responded. We'll talk when I get home. When I walked through the door that evening, she was waiting like a coiled spring. The house looked exactly the same as always. Dishes in the sink, her stuff scattered everywhere. But now she was furious instead of indifferent. What did you do to the cards? She demanded before I'd even closed the door. I made some changes to our financial arrangements, I said calmly, setting down my briefcase. We need to discuss how this household actually works. Changes? You can't just make changes without telling me. I tried to buy groceries today and couldn't even pay for them. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? Humiliating. There was that word again. You want to talk about humiliation? Let's talk about working 10 hours a day to support someone who treats you like hired help in your own home. Her face went red. That's completely different. I was hosting dinner for friends. You're supposed to support me. Support you in what? You don't work, you don't contribute financially, you don't maintain our home. What exactly am I supporting besides your ability to avoid responsibility? She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. I can't believe you're doing this over some stupid dinner party. So I asked you to help out a little. Big deal. Help out a little. I funded the entire evening, cooked the meal, served your friends, and cleaned up afterward while you took credit for everything. That's not helping out. That's being used. Used? I'm your wife. We're supposed to be a team. Teams require both players to contribute something. What's your contribution to this team? She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in years, she had no answer. Because there wasn't one. Her contribution had been existing while I handled everything else. This is ridiculous, she finally said. Turn the cards back on right now. No. That single word hit her like a physical force. She'd never heard it from me before, not about money, not about anything important. I'd always given in, always found a way to make things work, always been the accommodating husband who solved problems instead of creating them. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. The cards stay canceled. If you want spending money, you'll need to earn it like every other adult in the world. Earn it? I don't have a job. Then get one. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You're being crazy. You can't just cut me off from our money. Our money? Show me your last paycheck. Show me one bill you've paid, one expense you've covered, one financial contribution you've made to this household in the last 3 years. Silence. Complete, total silence. Because we both knew she couldn't show me any of those things. I take care of the house, she said weakly. I gestured around the living room, still messy from her day of doing nothing. Do you though? I'm not getting a job just because you're having some kind of midlife crisis. This isn't a crisis, it's a correction. You've been living like responsibility is optional, and I've been enabling that by handling everything for you. That ends now. You can't force me to get a job. You're absolutely right. I can't force you to do anything. But I also can't force myself to continue funding a lifestyle where I work and you don't. So here's how this works now. You want something, you pay for it yourself. You want to eat, you buy groceries with money you earned. You want to go out with friends, you pay your own tab. She stared at me in disbelief. This is insane. Married couples share expenses. Married couples also share responsibilities. When you start sharing the work, we can talk about sharing the benefits. What if I refuse? I shrugged. Then you'll learn what it's like to live without money you didn't earn. Your choice. The next morning, I watched her try to use her phone and discover that her unlimited data was gone. She tried to order coffee through her delivery app and found out her payment method had been removed. Every small convenience she'd taken for granted suddenly required her to think about money, work, and consequences. By Wednesday, reality was setting in hard. She'd spent 2 days arguing, pleading, and trying to manipulate me into reversing course. But I held firm. No more financial access until she started contributing financially. Thursday morning, I found her at the kitchen table with laptop open, actually looking at job listings. No arguments, no complaints, just quiet research into what work looked like for someone who hadn't held a job in 3 years. The transformation had begun. The first week of her job hunt was pure entertainment. She'd wake up, spend an hour getting ready like she was heading to a photo shoot, then sit at the kitchen table with her laptop, scrolling through job listings with the enthusiasm of someone browsing tax documents. "These jobs don't pay enough," she complained on day 3. "How am I supposed to live on $12 an hour? The same way millions of other people do it?" I replied, not looking up from my own work. By working, she tried every angle to break me down. Tears didn't work. Anger didn't work. Promises to help around the house more didn't work. I'd heard it all before. Empty promises that lasted about as long as her motivation to follow through. By Friday, desperation started creeping in. Her friends had invited her to lunch, and she couldn't afford to go. Her sister called wanting to plan a shopping trip, and she had to decline. For the first time in years, she was experiencing what most adults deal with daily, wanting things you can't afford. "This is cruel," she said, watching me eat dinner while she picked at a sandwich she'd made herself. "You're punishing me for being honest about not wanting to work." "I'm not punishing you. I'm just not subsidizing your choice anymore. There's a difference." Week 2 brought the first real breakthrough. She actually applied for jobs. Not dream positions or careers that matched her potential, but real, available work. Coffee shops, retail stores, reception positions. Places that would hire someone with a 3-year gap in employment history. The interviews were educational for her. She came home from the first one looking shocked. "They wanted to know why I haven't worked in so long." What was I supposed to say? The truth. That you chose not to work while your husband supported you, and now you're ready to start contributing. She got rejected from 3 places before landing a position at a local retail store. Part-time, minimum wage, exactly the kind of job she'd been too good for just weeks earlier. When she called to tell me she'd been hired, I could hear something new in her voice. Not excitement exactly, but something close to pride. Her first day was rough. She came home exhausted, feet hurting, complaining about standing for 6 hours and dealing with difficult customers. But she also came home with something she hadn't had in years: money she'd earned herself. "It's only $42 after taxes," she said, staring at her first paycheck like it was written in hieroglyphics. "That's $42 more than you had yesterday." The second week was when reality truly hit. She realized that working 20 hours a week at minimum wage wasn't going to fund her previous lifestyle. No more impromptu shopping trips, no more expensive dinners out, no more treating money like it materialized from thin air. "I had no idea how hard it was to earn money," she admitted one evening, counting her cash tips from the day. When you just hand over your card and buy something, you don't think about how many hours of work that represents. Progress. Actual acknowledgement that money required effort. It was the first time she'd connected spending with earning in our entire relationship. By month's end, she'd developed a completely different relationship with money. She'd compare prices at the grocery store, something that would have been unthinkable before. She'd decline invitations she couldn't afford instead of expecting me to cover them. She'd even started suggesting we eat at home more often to save money. The best part wasn't just the financial contribution, though that was significant. The best part was watching her discover what it felt like to have purpose beyond being comfortable. She started taking pride in small accomplishments, handling a difficult customer well, learning the inventory system, getting complimented by her manager. "I actually enjoyed work today," she said one evening, surprising both of us. This woman came in looking for a specific item for her daughter's birthday, and I helped her find exactly what she needed. She was so grateful. She was discovering the satisfaction of being useful, of contributing something meaningful to the world instead of just consuming resources. It was like watching someone wake up from a years-long coma and remember what it felt like to be alive. 2 months into her new working life, I decided it was time to establish the new household rules. She was earning money now, contributing financially for the first time in years, but our home life still looked like a one-person operation with me handling everything. We need to talk about how this house runs, I announced one Sunday morning over coffee. She looked up from her phone, where she'd been checking her work schedule. What do you mean? You're working now, earning income, contributing to our finances. That's excellent. But partnership means sharing all responsibilities, not just the financial ones. Her face showed she knew where this was heading. You want me to do more around the house? I want us both to do our fair share. You work 25 hours a week now. I work 40. That means you have more time available for household tasks, and frankly, it's time you started using it. She tried the old deflection tactics. I'm tired after work. Retail is exhausting. I'm sure it is. So is working 40 hours a week and then coming home to cook, clean, and maintain everything while you relax. Those days are over. I pulled out a piece of paper where I'd written down every household task: cooking, cleaning, laundry, grocery shopping, bill paying, yard work, maintenance. Everything that kept our lives functioning. Here's how this works now. We split these responsibilities based on our schedules and availability. You handle dinner 3 nights a week, I'll handle the other 4. You do laundry twice a week, I'll do it once. Grocery shopping alternates weekly. She stared at the list like I'd handed her a death sentence. This is a lot of work. Yes, it is. Which is why it's been unfair for one person to handle all of it while the other person did nothing. But I'm still learning how to balance work and everything else. Then learn faster. Adults don't get training wheels for basic responsibilities. The first week of our new arrangement was predictably rocky. She burned dinner twice, forgot to do laundry until we were both out of clean clothes, and somehow managed to spend twice as much as usual at the grocery store. But she was trying, and that effort mattered more than the results. Her coworkers started noticing changes too. She mentioned that one of them commented on how much more confident she seemed. Before, I felt like I was pretending to be an adult, she told me. Now I actually feel like one. The real test came when her friends invited her to another dinner party. This time, she asked me about the budget first, suggested we contribute a single dish instead of funding the entire evening, and actually help prepare what we brought instead of expecting me to handle it alone. I can't believe I used to think party planning just happened by magic, she said while chopping vegetables. Someone has to buy everything, prepare everything, clean everything. I never thought about any of that before. By month 3, our household had found a new rhythm. She'd wake up early on her days off to handle morning tasks, take genuine pride in cooking meals that turned out well, and even started suggesting improvements to how we organized things. I reorganized the pantry today, she announced proudly one evening. Everything's labeled and grouped by category. It'll make meal planning so much easier. Meal planning. She was thinking ahead, considering efficiency, taking ownership of household systems. These were concepts that would have been foreign to her 6 months earlier. The biggest change was in how she talked about our life together. Instead of "you need to" or "we should," she started saying "I'll handle" and "I can take care of." She'd become an active participant instead of a passive observer. Her relationship with money had completely transformed too. She'd compare her hourly wage to purchase prices, deciding if something was worth 3 hours of work or 5 hours of work. She'd suggest less expensive alternatives for things we needed, hunt for sales, and actually celebrate when she found good deals. I saved us $15 on groceries this week by using coupons and buying store brands, she told me with genuine excitement. That's almost an hour of work I didn't have to do. She was finally understanding that every dollar spent represented time and effort someone had invested to earn it. The concept of value had real meaning for her now. 6 months later, I barely recognized the woman I'd married. She was the same person physically, but everything else had changed. The transformation wasn't just about work or money or household tasks. It was deeper than that. She discovered what it meant to be responsible for her own life. I got promoted, she announced one evening, walking through the door with a smile I hadn't seen in years. Assistant manager, 28 hours a week and a $3 raise. She'd earned it too. Her manager had noticed her reliability, her willingness to learn, and her growing confidence with customers. These weren't qualities anyone had handed to her. She developed them through actual work and effort. "I'm proud of you," I told her, and meant it completely. "You know what's funny?" she said, setting down her purse in the designated spot she'd created for it. 6 months ago, I would have been furious about having to work at all. Now I'm excited about working more hours and taking on more responsibility. That's when I knew the change was real. She wasn't just going through the motions anymore. She genuinely valued the work, the contribution, the sense of purpose that came with being responsible for outcomes. Our relationship had transformed along with everything else. We talked differently now, like actual partners instead of a provider and dependent. She'd contribute ideas for household efficiency, suggest budget adjustments, and take initiative on problems instead of waiting for me to solve them. "I've been thinking about our vacation fund," she said one Sunday while we planned the week's meals together. "If I pick up an extra shift each week, we could have enough saved for that trip by next summer." Vacation fund. She was thinking months ahead, connecting current sacrifices to future rewards, understanding that good things required planning and effort. The old version of her would have expected me to figure out vacation funding while she picked the destination. Her friends had noticed the changes too. One of them called her completely different when they met for coffee, commenting on how much more engaged and confident she seemed. She'd started declining invitations that didn't fit our budget instead of expecting me to cover everything. "I actually enjoy budgeting now," she told me with a laugh. "There's something satisfying about making the numbers work, about knowing exactly where our money goes and why." The house ran like a machine these days. We both knew our responsibilities, both contributed fairly, both took ownership when things needed attention. She'd suggest improvements, implement systems, and take genuine pride in maintaining our home. "Remember when I used to complain about having nothing to do all day?" she asked one evening while we folded laundry together. "I had no idea how much better it feels to actually accomplish things instead of just killing time." But the biggest change was in how she saw herself. The old version had defined herself through what she consumed, what she owned, what others provided for her. The new version found identity in what she contributed, what she accomplished, what she earned through her own efforts. "I never understood why you seemed frustrated with me before," she admitted one night. "I thought you were being controlling or demanding. Now I realize you were just tired of carrying all the weight while I coasted along doing nothing." That conversation meant more to me than any promotion or raise ever could. She finally understood that responsibility wasn't punishment, it was participation. Contributing wasn't burden, it was partnership. Looking back, I realized that by forcing her to become responsible for her own life, I hadn't just saved our relationship. I'd given her the chance to discover who she actually was when she had to rely on herself instead of others. And that person was someone worth being married to. The woman who used to treat responsibility like a disease had become someone who embraced it as a source of strength and satisfaction. She learned what every adult needs to know, that earning your place in the world feels infinitely better than having it handed to you. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is refusing to enable their weaknesses. Sometimes love means making someone become responsible for themselves, even when they fight you every step of the way. She'd become responsible for her own life, and in doing so, had become the partner I'd always hoped she could be.